And here we go, and get ready for this Friday. This will likely be a surreal scene at the White House. New York City's newly elected mayor, a self-avowed Democratic socialist, Zohran Mamdani, will meet with the president in the Oval Office. So guess your best. What are they going to talk about? Good morning, everybody. We'll try and be a fly on the wall there. It is Friday. Bill Hemmer back here in New York. Hello, partner.
Yes, hi, good morning. I'm Dana Perino, and this is America's Newsroom. You know, neither of them are shrinking violets.
That is a fact.
But they do have something in common, which is that they live in New York City, they have loved New York City, and hopefully, I know one of them at least wants the best for New York City, and one of them says he does. So we'll be watching all of this today. The meeting highlights the growing divide in American politics writ large as socialism gains traction on the left. And the sit-down came as a surprise to some people, but the White House says, you know, that the president's door is always open.
It speaks volumes that tomorrow we have a communist coming to the White House, because that's who the Democrat Party elected as the mayor of the largest city in the country. I think it's very telling, but I also think it speaks to the fact that President Trump is willing to meet with anyone and talk to anyone and to try to do what's right on behalf of the American people, whether they live in blue states or red states or blue cities, in a city that's becoming much more left than I think this president ever anticipated in his many years of living in New York himself.
And Peter Doocy has much more from the White House. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Dana. And we don't expect this to be a kumbaya moment where President Trump says, where Mamdani says, sorry for saying that I will be your worst nightmare, and President Trump says, sorry for calling you a communist.
I intend to make it clear to President Trump that I will work with him on any agenda that benefits New Yorkers. If an agenda hurts New Yorkers, I will also be the first to say so.
The things Mamdani wants to talk about: public safety, economic security, and affordability. But he could get a tongue lashing from a president who thought Mamdani's victory speech crossed a line when he told the president to turn up the volume.
A very dangerous statement for him to make, actually. And, you know, you talk about danger. I think it's a very dangerous statement for him to make. He has to be a little bit respectful of Washington, because if he's not, he doesn't have a chance of succeeding. And I want to make him succeed. I want to make the city succeed. I don't want to make him succeed. I want to make the city succeed, and we'll see what happens.
And Mamdani's positions are in such opposition to most of the Trump cabinet that his politics are kind of a punchline.
Another big story is that last night President Trump announced that tomorrow he's going to be hosting a meeting with the New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. He calls him communist.
I might have
He's
a stomach
not wrong
tomorrow.
about that.
And when you talk to President Trump about New York, he's still very fond of his hometown. He thinks that he still has a lot of MAGA support in New York because he had a well-attended rally in the Bronx during the last campaign cycle. So don't expect the president to welcome Mamdani as a one-of-a-kind expert in what New Yorkers want.
All right. And Peter, do you expect that the press will be in the room at some point and be able to get a chance to ask questions?
Probably, just because pretty much every Oval Office thing that we ever see with President Trump and a high-profile guest starts the day on the schedule as closed press and then opens up.
Okay, we hope so. Thank you.
So Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, a Republican out of New York, represents, well, millions of people who live here. Good morning to you. We assembled, we could have selected from a lot of things here. Here's just a sampling of the two men going back and forth over the past 6 months. Watch it.
I am Donald Trump's worst nightmare as a progressive Muslim immigrant who actually fights for the things that I believe in.
He's a communist, and he's a pure communist. I think he admits it. If he does get in, I'm going to be president, and he's going to have to do the right thing, or they're not getting any money.
What threatens the president so much about my campaign? It showcases the way in which he's betrayed the very people that we are seeking to serve.
I think he's terrible. He's a communist. The last thing we need is a communist.
If anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Okay, I mean, we could have kept going, but I'll give it to you right now. I see this as one of two options. Either they put on a good public face together, or this thing goes sideways quickly. What do you think?
I think either thing obviously can happen, but look, I know President Trump, and this is somebody who can sit down with the leaders of North Korea, of communist China, and he can strike a deal that's in the best interest of the American people, and I think he will do the same thing for the people of New York, the city that he loves. Look, President Trump built New York City. He's so invested in there that he wants to see it succeed, and it is the economic engine for the entire country. So I think that President Trump's going to work with me, the only Republican representing New York City and Washington, to stop this socialist and communist agenda, but at the same time not punish the people of New York City by stripping funds. That's what my biggest concern is. We need to make sure that New York City still gets money for its NYPD, for public housing, for transportation infrastructure, for our hospitals. And we see some Republicans in Washington looking to punish New York despite the fact that half of voters rejected Mamdani. And so I think this is a very important meeting. It's critical that it's happening. The campaign's over. And I do believe they'll be able to find some path to move forward. But I think President Trump's going to send that very clear message. We want New York to succeed, but we will do everything we can to stop socialism from taking over the city of capitalism and free market and the American dream.
Well, the fiscal train has run away from the station. Here's some statistics. Earlier this year, the New York State Comptroller reported that New York City's proposed fiscal year 26 budget relies on $7.4 billion in federal government funding. That's about 6.4% of total spending. What could Mamdani do to make sure that that money gets to New York?
Look, he needs to go into this meeting today, be respectful, and actually, in good faith, tell the president what you want to achieve for New York and find some type of common ground. I think it's really critical. We saw the Department of Homeland Security change their formula around where New York was going to lose about $100 million for NYPD counterterrorism. I called President Trump, and within 48 hours, he reversed it. He has that power to help New York when we need it the most. And I know that he wants New York to succeed, but he also wants to stop communism and socialism from taking over our city and nation. And so there's got to be a balancing act. And Mamdani's not going to be able to do all the things that he wants to do. Seize the means of production. We're certainly not going to give him federal funds to buy private property, to turn them into communes, or to take over supermarkets as he had proposed during the campaign trail. That is ludicrous. And that's stuff that happened in Venezuela and my mother's homeland of Cuba and simply failed. Okay? So we're not going to play ball with him on any of these issues. We're going to do everything we can to stop him. But when it comes to the public safety of New York, and he's got to recognize some of his policies were very radical and detrimental to public safety. I'm glad he's backtracking now. He decided to keep Commissioner Tisch, who's doing a good job. He decided to say they're going to send actual police officers, not social workers, to domestic calls. So we're seeing him backtrack a little already and moving a little more to the center. So we just got to keep that going and hold him accountable if he tries to implement radical policies.
So he filed a selfie on X just a moment ago on board the plane down to Washington, D.C. I think if it comes to it, both of these men are ready for the fight. And we'll see if that happens. Thank you for your time. Nicole Malliotakis, thank you for coming on today.
Good day.
All right, Dana.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.